Hi, I'm Cherish. I've been working as a writer and an editor for more than 10 years. And as it is Charity Tuesday, today I'm going to be giving 5 copywriting tips aimed at charities to help you make your writing better. Tip number 1, write with clarity. Clarity for your charity. Razor sharp clarity is the most important thing when you're writing, especially when you're writing copy or writing for the web. An easy way to do this is to simplify your language. Never use a long word when a shorter one will do. Most common examples that I see as an editor are when people say however instead of but, or in addition to instead of and. The shorter words are much clearer, more accessible, and it makes your writing easier to read. A lot of people have this kind of misconception that if they use longer words, it will sound more impressive and it'll make them sound more intelligent and authoritative. Not only is this not true, it also makes your writing so much harder to read and less accessible. Good writing is not about showing off your vocabulary. Good writing is about communicating. This leads us on to tip number 2, which is shorten your sentences. Think more Hemingway, less Dickens. You aren't being paid by the word. Shorter sentences are a really important part of concise writing. Shorter sentences are clearer and they are more accessible. If you look at your writing or someone else's writing that you're editing and you have a big run-on sentence, you want to stick a full stop in there and break it into smaller ones. This leads me on to an absolute pet hate that I see everywhere. Everyone seems to think that you can't begin a sentence with the word and. Yes, you can. You can begin a sentence with and. Most of us are taught in primary school that you shouldn't begin a sentence with a conjunction, so that's words like and, but, and so. This is all a lie. You absolutely can. It's not bad grammar to start a sentence with a conjunction. It never has been, and I don't know why we teach kids that it is. So according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary of English Usage, everybody agrees that it's right to begin a sentence with and nearly everybody admits to having been taught at some time in the past that the practice is wrong. There you go, straight from Merriam-Webster. You can begin a sentence with and. I see this fairly often as an editor. They'll be editing someone's work and they will clearly want to start a sentence with the word but they don't because they've been told it's bad grammar. So instead, they start that same sentence with however. It's a synonym. It means the same thing. All you've done is use a long word where a short one will do, and we know that's bad practice. So unless you actually are studying for your Year 6 SATs, feel free to start your sentences with and, so, but, or any conjunction that strikes your fancy. Tip number 3, only use one idea per sentence. It is much easier for your reader to process your writing. Oh, I'm sorry, the rain in here is really loud. It's much easier for the reader if they only have to process one point at a time per sentence. It makes your writing clearer, it makes your writing more concise, and it also makes your writing more persuasive. Number 4, use active voice. So in standard UK English, there are 2 grammatical voices, active and passive. In active voice, the subject of the sentence performs the verb's action. In passive, the subject is acted on by the verb. This sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is. In a nutshell, it's just when the subject of the sentence performs the action rather than being acted upon. So for example, 100 bags of litter were filled by our volunteers is passive, whereas our volunteers filled 100 bags of litter is active voice. £1,400 was raised by the school children is passive. The school children raised £1,400 is active. The bridge was fixed by the charity, passive. The charity fixed the bridge, active. There are times when it's good, when the passive voice is good to use, maybe if you're doing something a little bit more creative, but generally speaking, especially when you're writing copy and especially in the charity sector, active voice is going to be the way to go. That's much clearer. It's also really important to use active voice when you're writing anything that's related to the user experience on your website. For example, your email has been received is passive versus we have received your email is active. And the second one sounds much more natural, much clearer and much less robotic. And tip number 5, the stress position. This is one of my favorite tips when I'm trying to help people get a little bit better at writing. It's such an easy thing to do, but it really transforms the way you work. This is something you can use when you're writing emails, social media copy, on-site copy, even speeches. In English, the stress position is the end of the sentence, and that's where we put the emphasis. It's where your most important information goes. So for example, if you are an animal rescue and you're writing a pet profile about a dog, you might say, Tess has a lovely temperament, but she has some serious health issues, versus Tess has some serious health issues, but she has a lovely temperament. Can you hear the difference there? In the first one, the stress is on a potential owner will have to consider that this dog has health needs. And the second one, the stress is on this dog's lovely temperament. Another example is if perhaps you're a medical research charity, you might say, this drug is 94% effective, but it has some side effects. Or, the drug has some side effects, but it's 94% effective. The information you're presenting is exactly the same, and it's all honest and correct, but the way that you've structured your sentence means that you are putting the emphasis where you want it to go. This is really useful, particularly if you're writing fundraising bids, asking people for money, or even just writing your reports, because this way you can share your information honestly and clearly, and you have a bit more control over what someone's takeaway is after reading your piece. So, to wrap up, the 5 things you need to remember are: 1. Clarity. 2. Keep your sentences short and sweet. 3. One idea per sentence. 4. Always use the active voice. And 5. Use the stress position for emphasis. So please do try these tips out. Let me know if they worked for you. Have a great week and go do some good.